The next question is on marketing. The topic is marketing, and it's going to first go to Roy Mattson. What would you propose to better market our FCHOA?
Well, first of all, we've made a pretty good start with that by creating the marketing committee, doing the surveys, having more interaction with our realtors, et cetera. But something else that we probably need to do falls on a little bit with what Bob was saying, is that, you know, right now there's a lot of opportunity, and actually new opportunity occurring. And I'll use COVID as an example for that. Is that prior to COVID, is that most people thought about working in an office. After COVID, more and more and more people are thinking about working at home. That represents an opportunity for Ford's Colony. That allows us to actually be in the play, if you will, where we would not have been before COVID. So those are the things that when we market the community, we've got to think about and figure out, for going back to who would move here, how they would use the facilities in this environment to facilitate their work, et cetera, to make it more in demand for them to come here. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Ray?
Roy actually said, I think the main thing the board recognized several years ago, before just about the time I was joining the board, of the need for a marketing committee and a more aggressive approach to our interactions with the various realtors that deal in Ford's Colony. And I think the marketing department has those guys have made an impact, and I think that will only increase. Looking forward is always the ideal, and probably one of the hardest things to do. You know, I do recall when I was working and living here, when we first got here, I was complaining bitterly about the technology availability, and why indeed didn't we have better than just Cox, who was the internet provider. And I thought that when we saw Marriott get fiber optic, and we saw it going in up, you know, being laid in Ford's Colony Drive, he said, we're going to be able to key off of that. And then Verizon basically came back and said, no, you're really not. We have a contract with Marriott we're going to honor, and we're not going to put the infrastructure in as we're waiting for 5G. And so when 5G comes in, 5G is wireless technology that gives you the speeds of perhaps of copper and fiber optic, and that's the next best thing. And I think that we should continue to aggressively pursue those types of opportunities with Verizon, you know, and other providers, to perhaps be on more of the leading edge, because technology is something that's very important to the working adult. At least it was to me, and I think it is to everyone who's here who wants to work from home. Being connected means you have to have, you have to have the infrastructure to do that. So I think we'll continue to look forward, and the marketing group is doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Rick Beers?
There are about 4 million people a year that are retiring. Those statistics are basically driven by the baby boom generation, the size of the generation, and when they're hitting age 65. We've looked at that number for years, and it's been stable. We know that in 6 years, that number falls off a cliff when we hit the baby bust generation, which started in '64. So we have a period of time where there's a stable number of people that are entering what we need to view or could view as a target audience to recruit people to come here. The nice thing, or the opportunity, has been brought up a couple of times before me, and that is the impact of COVID. We knew also, when I'm saying we, I mean I was part of a group that studied this a couple of years ago as part of the strategic plan development. We know that what we were calling at the time work from home was a growing opportunity for us to attract people. Now with COVID, it's accelerated it, and now the term is remote work. So that 4 million becomes greater, but that isn't going to last forever. We have a point in time right now that we really need to take advantage of to drive demand for the community. Driving demand drives value, as does all of the other internal work that we need to do. So the opportunity we have is to provide to people, why would they move moving to North Carolina. We know a lot is different that we can take advantage of. We know that we sit within 3-hour diameter, 3-hour radius of a huge technology base, military base of opportunities. Contractors will come here in droves. The location we have is, we're at a nexus. That's perfect. We're an oasis. That's perfect. There's a number of things we can do. And by the way, when people leave the gates, there is something else to see. Lot to market. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Bob Boggio?
I think enough's been said about this. I'd like to emphasize looking forward rather than staying stagnant in place. We've done a pretty good job of the environment, and we put that very high on our priority, and I think we just need to move the technology aspects a little bit higher in priority and spend some time focusing on that to make us more attractive.
Thank you. Daphne?
I think some great points have been made. For me, marketing really is about looking forward. It's about figuring out who your market might be and then what you need to do to approach it. Technology is clearly, let's be honest, whether you're a retiree, whether you're working at home, whether you're a young family with kids, you need the technology. I think that one's, pretty much something that we should focus on. But independent of marketing, I think we also need to think about what's happening in the Hampton Roads area. I would imagine that in time we're going to be part of a much larger metropolitan area. How does that affect us, and what kinds of people would like to live here versus living in another community? So I think this is a forward-looking exercise. And I'm not sure that it's confined or sort of a unique period in time because of COVID. I really think there are shifts in demographics locally and nationally that we can identify and start to plan for.